Let me ask you a question you've likely never been asked in a doctor's office. When did we decide that losing your vitality, your passion, your very aliveness was just a normal part of getting older? When did we agree to trade our spark for a pill bottle? I'm here to tell you that this trade is a lie. The most powerful pharmacy in the world isn't down the street, it's in your kitchen. And what if I told you that the key to reclaiming the vigor of your youth could start with what you stir into your morning coffee? For decades, we've been sold a story of decline, but new science is screaming a different truth. Your body is built to repair, to regenerate, and yes, to perform at any age. The secret isn't a mysterious herb from a remote jungle. It's about understanding the single greatest bottleneck to male vitality and addressing it with something so simple, it's been hiding in plain sight. Let's begin by dismantling a pervasive and dangerous myth that dwindling vitality is a direct and inevitable symptom of your age. We have been conditioned to believe that the passing years themselves are the thief, quietly stealing our strength, our energy, and our capacity for pleasure. This is a profound misunderstanding, and it is the very foundation of our helplessness. The true thief, the silent saboteur working tirelessly in the shadows of your body, is not the number of candles on your cake. It is the gradual, insidious degradation of your circulatory system, your microvascular health. Think of your vast network of blood vessels, from the great highways of your arteries down to the microscopic, single-file capillaries that reach every single cell, as the most critical delivery system in your personal economy. Its sole job is to transport oxygen, nutrients, hormones, and life itself to your tissues. And for the key systems governing male vitality, this delivery is everything. The erectile tissue itself is a vascular marvel, a complex sponge of chambers that must fill rapidly and efficiently to transform intention into reality. That filling is not magic. It is pure, precise hydraulics. It requires robust, flexible arteries capable of dramatic dilation, pristine endothelial lining that facilitates smooth flow, and capillaries ready to perfuse the deepest tissues. Now, here is what happens over decades, not because of time itself, but because of the wear and tear of modern life. Inflammation from processed foods, oxidative stress from environmental toxins, and the stiffness caused by chronic stress hormones like cortisol, all conspire to attack this delicate system. The endothelial lining becomes irritated and dysfunctional, losing its ability to produce the crucial signaling molecule, nitric oxide, that tells blood vessels to relax and open. The arterial walls themselves begin to accumulate plaque and lose their elasticity, becoming more like stiff, corroded pipes than supple, responsive tubes. The capillaries, those tiny lifelines, can simply wither and fade away, a process called rarefaction. This is the real bottleneck. You could have perfectly adequate hormone levels, a willing mind, and a passionate heart, but if the delivery system is compromised, the message cannot be delivered. The engine is starved of fuel. This is why isolated approaches so often fail. Chasing a single hormone number is like hiring a world-class courier, but then locking the front door and letting the driveway crumble. He cannot reach you. The revolutionary shift in thinking is this: restoration must begin with restoring the roads. The ultimate focus must be on vasodilation, on endothelial health, on capillary density. When you improve blood flow, you are not merely addressing a single symptom. You are systemically rejuvenating the entire organism. You are enhancing cognitive function by feeding the brain, boosting physical energy by fueling muscles, improving heart health, sharpening senses, and yes, enabling the profound physical response that is rooted in flawless circulation. This is the cornerstone. Without addressing this foundational issue of crippled blood flow, all other efforts are merely decorative. But by targeting it, by providing the specific, natural catalysts that remind your vasculature how to be young, supple, and wildly efficient, you do not just manage a condition. You rebuild the very infrastructure of vitality from the ground up. You turn back the clock not on your calendar, but on your internal landscape, creating the conditions where life, in every sense of the word, can flow freely once again. To grasp the true revolution in restoring vitality, we must move beyond the outdated conversation that fixates solely on hormones and instead focus on the master conductor of your entire circulatory symphony, nitric oxide. This simple molecule, composed of one nitrogen atom and one oxygen atom, is not just a player in your biology. It is the single most important chemical command for blood flow, and its decline is the central reversible tragedy of aging. Imagine nitric oxide as the language your blood vessels speak to relax and open. It's produced by the delicate, single, cell, thick lining of your entire vascular system called the endothelium. This lining is not inert plumbing, it is a dynamic, intelligent organ, and its primary output for health is this gaseous signaling molecule. When you are young and healthy, your endothelium is a prolific factory of no. It releases precise puffs of it in response to the sheer force of blood flow, a process called flow-mediated dilation. This is a beautiful feedback loop. Healthy blood flow stimulates no production, and no then dilates the vessels to promote even healthier flow. It's a self-reinforcing cycle of vitality. This molecule is the direct chemical signal that tells the smooth muscle cells in the walls of your arteries to relax. When they relax, the vessel lumen widens dramatically. This is vasodilation. For the intricate, spongy tissues that govern physical arousal, this vasodilation is the entire game. It is the difference between a feeble trickle and a powerful, pressurized influx. It is the difference between a whispered suggestion and a shouted command that your body obeys without hesitation. But here is the crisis. This endothelial factory begins to break down. The reasons are the usual suspects of modern decay: chronic inflammation from poor diet, oxidative stress from toxins and processed foods, the physical damage from high blood sugar, and the sheer wear and tear of unmanaged stress. These insults inflame and injure the endothelial lining. Think of it as soot and grime building up on the sensitive controls of a finely tuned instrument. The factory floor becomes clogged. The enzymes responsible for producing nitric oxide become dysfunctional, or their raw materials become scarce. Furthermore, the very enemies that damage the endothelium, like destructive free radicals, actively seek out and destroy the nitric oxide molecules you do produce, neutralizing them before they can deliver their message. This is a double assault. Production plummets and destruction skyrockets. The result is endothelial dysfunction, the root cause of not just diminished physical performance, but of cardiovascular disease itself. The stiffening, the narrowing, the silence where there should be a chemical shout. This is why the catalyst is everything. The paradigm shift is not about adding an external stimulant that forces a temporary, jittery response. It is about providing the precise, natural precursors and factors that your body desperately needs to repair its own nitric oxide production line. We are talking about specific amino acids like L-citrulline and L-arginine, which are the direct raw materials from which your body synthesizes no. We are talking about powerful rich compounds from specific vegetables that offer an alternative backup pathway for no production, bypassing the damaged enzymatic route. And crucially, we are talking about potent antioxidants, like those found in deeply colored berries and certain herbs, that act as bodyguards, shielding the precious nitric oxide molecules from destruction by free radicals the moment they are born. By strategically and consistently supplying this triad, the raw materials, the alternative pathways, and the protective shield, you are not imposing a foreign substance on your body. You are removing the roadblocks. You are scrubbing the grime off the controls. You are giving your endothelium the tools it remembers how to use from its youth. You are transforming it from a rusted, silent factory back into a humming, prolific power plant. The result is not a fleeting pharmacological effect. It is the restoration of a fundamental biological language. It is your body remembering how to speak the command for life, energy, and powerful, effortless response. The fire hose, as opposed to the garden hose, is not attached from the outside. It is rebuilt from within by the master molecule you taught your body to produce in abundance once again. To view the challenge of reigniting vitality as solely a matter of blood flow is to mistake the spectacular fireworks display for the hand that lights the fuse. The fuse itself is lit not in the pelvis, but in the profound and complex landscape of the human brain. This is the domain of neural spark, the lightning, vast cascade of electrical signals, neurochemical whispers, and sensory symphonies that transforms a mere thought into a palpable, physical reality. We must understand that the entire event is conceived and commanded by the central nervous system. It begins with desire, which is itself a neural phenomenon, a pattern of activation across networks involving the prefrontal cortex for imagination, the limbic system for emotional color, and the hypothalamus for primal drive. But in the modern, aging brain, these pathways can become overgrown with the weeds of stress, distraction, and fatigue. The neurotransmitter balance shifts. Dopamine, the molecule of motivation, reward, and anticipation, can become depleted. Instead, becomes you are always FOLLOWINGAWAOH in Sumpsrisol, the stress hormone that is the natural enemy of spontaneity and connection, signaling to the body that it is in a state of survival, not intimacy. This is the first breakdown. The signal to initiate becomes faint, static, filled, or is drowned out entirely by the noise of a preoccupied mind. Then comes the critical relay phase. Once the spark of intention is lit, the command must travel flawlessly from the brain, down the spinal cord, and out through the peripheral nerves to the precise tissues involved. This neural highway must be impeccably maintained, yet, with age and metabolic dysfunction, often driven by poor blood sugar control and inflammation, a process called peripheral neuropathy can begin. This isn't just the numbness in the feet we commonly hear about. It is an insidious degradation of nerve function everywhere. It's like the insulation on a vital wire fraying, causing the signal to weaken, short, or misfire. The brain may shout a command, but by the time it arrives at its destination, it's a faint, distorted echo. Furthermore, the sensory feedback loop is essential. Pleasure and sensation are not one-way streets. Rich signals must travel back to the brain, informing it, encouraging it, building the crescendo. If the sensory nerves are dulled, that critical feedback is diminished, leaving the brain operating in a void, like a musician trying to play a sublime piece in a soundproof room. This is why the intervention must be neuronutritive. It's about moving beyond simple stimulation, like the blunt instrument of caffeine, which can often exacerbate anxiety and later cause a crash that dampens the very system we wish to enliven. The goal is to provide the specific building blocks that nurture the nervous system itself. We are talking about compounds that support the synthesis of key neurotransmitters, helping to recalibrate the balance between excitatory and calming signals. We are discussing potent adaptogens that help modulate the hypothalamic, pituitary, adrenal axis, not by shutting it down, but by teaching the body's stress response to be more resilient and to recede efficiently when the threat has passed, clearing the biochemical stage for other performers. It involves ensuring optimal levels of nutrients like B vitamins, which are fundamental for nerve conduction and the production of myelin, that essential insulation around our neural wiring. By strategically supporting this entire neural ecosystem, from the genesis of desire in the cortex, down the conductivity of the spinal pathway, to the sensitivity of the peripheral and sensory nerves, we are not forcing a reaction, we are performing a system-wide upgrade of the communication network. We are scrubbing the corrosion from the contacts, repairing the frayed wiring, and amplifying the signal-to-noise ratio. We are reigniting the neural pathways of anticipation, sharpening the sensory perception that makes touch electric, and restoring the flawless, instantaneous communication between mind and body. The result is not just a physical response, but a rekindled connection, a rediscovery of the vivid, participatory dialogue between thought and sensation that is the very essence of being fully, vibrantly alive. If we are to truly rebuild the foundation of lasting vitality, We must confront the quiet, systemic arsonist that is present in nearly every modern body: chronic, low-grade inflammation. This is not the acute, helpful inflammation of a sprained ankle or an infection, the kind that brings healing cells to a site of injury, creates warmth, and then dutifully recedes. That is a controlled fire, a precise biological tool. The inflammation we are discussing is different. It is a silent, smoldering, pervasive burn that never extinguishes. It is the biological equivalent of a forgotten pilot light, left on for decades, slowly warping the metal of the machinery around it. This fire is fed by 1,000 daily sparks, the hidden sugars and refined carbohydrates in our diets that spike blood glucose and produce advanced glycation end products, the damaged fats from processed oils that integrate into our cellular membranes, the subtle immune reactions to foods we tolerate but do not truly thrive on, the physiological residue of unmanaged psychological stress, and the environmental toxins that burden our detoxification pathways. This constant low-grade alarm state causes the immune system to remain perpetually, subtly engaged, releasing a steady drizzle of inflammatory cytokines, chemical messengers like TNF-alpha and IL-6 into the bloodstream. This inflammatory cascade is the silent passion killer because it attacks the very infrastructure of vitality at multiple, devastating levels. Primarily, it is public enemy number one for the endothelial lining we have just praised. Inflammatory cytokines actively irritate and damage these delicate cells, directly impairing their ability to produce the vital nitric oxide that is the master key to vasodilation. Instead, they cause the endothelium to become sticky, priming it for the plaque formation that stiffens arteries. Imagine pouring a thin, corrosive syrup into a perfectly engineered hydraulic system. Everything begins to gum up, seize, and lose its effortless fluidity. Furthermore, this inflammation directly damages the sensitive nerve tissues we depend on for spark and signal. It creates an oxidative environment that harms neurons and can accelerate peripheral neuropathy, dulling the exquisite sensitivity required for both initiation and pleasure. At a systemic level, chronic inflammation disrupts hormone balance. It can increase the production of sex hormone, binding globulin SHBG, which effectively locks away free testosterone, making it unavailable to tissues. It also promotes the conversion of hormones into less active or even problematic forms. Perhaps most insidiously, this smoldering fire creates a state of generalized fatigue and malaise. It tells the brain and body that it is under attack, that resources must be diverted to survival, not to growth, repair, or pleasure. The body's priority becomes mounting a defense, not fostering connection or expending energy on non-essential functions. It systematically lowers the set point for vitality, convincing you that feeling slightly unwell, stiff, and depleted is simply your new normal. Therefore, the potent anti-inflammatory agent we introduce is not merely a palliative. It is a fundamental firebreak. It is a strategic, natural compound, or synergistic blend of them, with the proven molecular capacity to intervene in this inflammatory cascade. We are talking about substances that can inhibit the very production of the inflammatory cytokines at the genetic level, through pathways like suppressing NF-κB, a master regulator of inflammation. They provide a torrent of antioxidants that quench the oxidative sparks flying from this metabolic fire, protecting tissues from collateral damage. They help to resolve inflammation, not just suppress it, encouraging the body's own processes to clean up the cellular debris and return to a state of equilibrium. By systematically, daily cooling this internal fire, we remove the single greatest roadblock to vascular health, neural clarity, and hormonal balance. We are not just adding a lubricant to a rusty engine. We are stopping the constant drip of acid that caused the rust in the first place. The body, freed from this chronic alarm state, can finally redirect its energy and resources away from endless defense and towards repair, regeneration, and yes, the profound, effortless expression of life force that had been suppressed for years. The stiffness recedes, the fog lifts, the pathways clear, and the system remembers its primary purpose, not just to survive, but to thrive. The journey to restoration is not a purely mechanical one, where fixing a biological system automatically yields a predictable, unwavering result. Between the physiology of response and the experience of vitality lies a powerful, often decisive, psychological landscape, the realm of confidence. This is where the work on blood flow, neural pathways, and inflammation converges into something tangible and self-reinforcing, a positive feedback loop that transforms hope into certainty. For too long, the psychological component has been dismissed as secondary, a mere byproduct. In truth, it is the catalytic converter of the entire process. Consider the devastating impact of a single negative experience, or a pattern of them. The mind, a brilliant pattern recognition machine, begins to associate intimacy with anxiety, with the fear of failure, with embarrassment. This creates what is known as performance anxiety, which is not a trivial nervousness, but a full-blown neurological and hormonal event. The brain, perceiving a threat, triggers the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight response. Adrenaline and cortisol surge. This is biologically antithetical to the state required for arousal, which is governed by the parasympathetic rest and digest system. Blood, instead of flowing to the core, is shunted to the extremities for a hypothetical escape. The mind becomes an observer, a critic, hyper, focused on outcome rather than sensation, trapping the individual in a cycle of spectatorship where they are watching themselves for signs of failure. This anxiety itself becomes the primary obstacle, independent of any underlying physical condition. Now, imagine the first time a new protocol, a simple daily ritual, yields a clear, unmistakable physical response. Not a forced or chemical reaction, but a natural, spontaneous return of function. This moment is a seismic psychological event. It provides direct, incontrovertible evidence to the subconscious mind that the old narrative of decline is false. It breaks the chain of negative association. This evidence is more powerful than any reassurance or positive thinking. It is data written in the language of the body itself. With that single piece of data, the mental script begins to rewrite. Anticipation slowly, tentatively, shifts from dread of failure to curiosity, then to positive expectation. As the physiological improvements compound from consistent practice, as blood flow becomes more reliable, as neural sharpness returns, as inflammation recedes, these successful experiences accumulate. Each one deposits a brick in the foundation of a new, unshakable belief: my body works for me. This burgeoning confidence is not a passive feeling, it is an active force that alters biology. When you approach a moment with the quiet certainty of success, the brain does not sound the alarm. It allows the parasympathetic system to remain dominant. It permits the vascular and neural signals to proceed down their pathways without the interference of stress hormones. The mind stays connected to sensation and partner, not to internal monitoring. This state of psychological safety is the final, essential permission slip the body needs to perform at its optimum. Thus, the loop is established. Improved physical function builds genuine, evidence-based confidence. That confidence dismantles the anxiety that was itself a primary inhibitor. The removal of that inhibition leads to even more reliable, effortless function, which further fortifies confidence. You move from a vicious cycle of fear and failure to a virtuous cycle of assurance and achievement. The goal, therefore, transcends mere mechanics. It is to create this self-sustaining engine of belief. The daily habit becomes more than a physical intervention. It is a psychological anchor, a tangible ritual that daily reinforces the new identity of a man whose body responds. You are not just repairing a function, you are reclaiming your narrative. You are shifting from hoping your body might cooperate to knowing that it will. That knowledge rooted in lived experience and biological truth becomes the most potent medicine of all. The quiet power that ensures the restoration is not a fleeting event, but a permanent state of being. For too long, we have accepted a narrative of inevitable decline, trading vibrancy and power for a resigned whisper of what used to be. We have been sold a fairy tale that the passions and performance of our youth are on a fixed downward trajectory, a story that our biology itself now screams is a lie. This journey has not been about a single mystical ingredient. It has been a fundamental re-education. We have shined a light on the true reversible culprits, not time itself, but the crippled circulation, the silenced cellular language, the smoldering inflammation, and the broken feedback loops that steal our vitality. We have moved the conversation away from chasing isolated symptoms and toward rebuilding the foundational systems of life itself. The powerful message is this: your body possesses a profound, innate capacity for repair and regeneration at any age. It is not a machine wearing out, but a dynamic ecosystem waiting for the correct signals and materials to remember its own strength. By strategically addressing the master levers of health, the endothelial nitric oxide factory, the neural communication network, the inflammatory fire, and the psychological confidence loop, you are not merely managing a condition, you are engaging in a systematic, synergistic renaissance of your entire physiology. You are removing the roadblocks and providing the master keys that allow your own body to do what it is designed to do: thrive. This is the true synergy. It is about understanding that the simple, powerful catalyst is not a magic potion, but the conductor of a symphony. It unlocks the potential of the nutrient, dense foods you eat, the water you drink, the movement you undertake, and the rest you allow. It transforms your daily choices from a scattered list of tasks into a coherent, deliberate protocol for renewal. You become the architect, using the principles of synergy to create a whole state of health that is infinitely greater than the sum of its parts. The result is not a fleeting reaction, but a sustained restoration, a return to feeling capable, connected, and intensely alive. So, as you move forward, carry this knowledge not as a burden, but as an empowerment. The power was never in a remote jungle or a secret formula. It is in the science of how your body works and the daily, consistent commitment to support it. You have the blueprint. Reject the narrative of decline. Stir in the knowledge, stir in the science. Rebuild the infrastructure of your vitality from within. And step into the life you deserve. A life where passion, performance, and powerful presence are not memories of the past, but the lived reality of your present and your future. The journey to reclaim everything that is yours begins with the simple, profound decision to start. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the true science of restoration. It has been a privilege to unpack these powerful principles with you. Remember, this isn't just information. It's a new foundation for action. Your journey to lasting vitality is built one informed choice at a time. I sincerely hope this series has empowered you with knowledge and clarity. If you found this valuable, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. That way, you won't miss our upcoming content where we continue to translate complex science into practical steps for living your fullest, healthiest life at any age. For now, this is Dr. Nora Hayes. Invest in your health, trust your body's ability to heal, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and goodbye.